All right, let's talk about enterprise AI strategy, because what's happening right now is, well, it's wild. The numbers are so big, they barely seem real. But you have to understand them, because this isn't just about cool new tech, it's about survival. Okay, first number up, $250 billion. No, that's not the market cap of some huge company. That's the committed cloud compute spend that OpenAI has with Microsoft. Just let that number sink in for a second. And then there's this number, $207 billion. What's that? Well, according to an HSBC analysis, that's the potential funding hole OpenAI could be staring into by 2030. So you've got this insane spending on one side and this giant potential deficit on the other. What on earth is going on here? When you see numbers like that, the first reaction for a lot of people is, here we go again, another tech bubble. They'll call it a money pit with a website on top. But look, that is a huge mistake. Thinking that way is actually dangerous, and for a lot of businesses, it could be a fatal misread of the situation. So what's really happening here? This isn't a bubble in the traditional sense. This is a flat-out market capture race. The big players, they're not burning through cash to make a profit this quarter. No way. They are spending whatever it takes to build and own the fundamental rails of the entire future economy, and that changes the game for everyone else. And that race, well, that's what creates this massive danger for every other company trying to keep up. We're calling it the AI velocity trap. See, the old playbook of let's just wait and see how this plays out, that's not just a bad strategy anymore. It's a fatal one. The speed this is moving at is it's like nothing we've ever seen before. So let me paint you a picture you've probably seen or maybe even considered. A company wants to get in on the AI action, right? So what do? They build what's called a wrapper. It's basically a simple layer of their own software wrapped around a popular model, like GPT-4. Seems smart, right? A quick and easy win. But here's the problem. That quick win goes bad fast. I mean, look at this timeline. Month 1, you deploy, awesome. But by month 2, the model you built everything on top of, it's already been updated by the provider. And guess what happens in month 3? Your whole workflow breaks. Now you're not innovating, you're just stuck in this endless, super expensive cycle of patching things up. And honestly, this quote from the source material just nails it. The shelf life of a wrapper workflow is shorter than a head of lettuce. I mean, think about that. By the time you get your shiny new AI feature into production, it's already starting to rot. It's just not a sustainable way to operate. So this leaves your business at a crossroads, really. There are 3 paths you can go down. Path 1, you're a synchronized surfer. Your architecture is flexible, it's decoupled, and you can ride these waves of change. Path 2, you're the lagging wrapper. You're always a step behind, your system is constantly breaking, and you're losing value. And the worst case, path 3, you hit the Divergent Dead-End. Your tech is so deeply tied to an old model that you can't fix it. The only option is a complete, and I mean cripplingly expensive rewrite. Okay, so obviously nobody wants to be a lagging wrapper or hit a dead end. So how do you avoid it? Well, it takes a whole new way of thinking, a new playbook. It's called the Sovereign AI Playbook. And this is your main line of defense against what I guarantee you is going to become a very real AI tax. So what is sovereign AI? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's about taking back control. It means you own your data, sure, but critically, you also own your compute logic. Why? Because this is the only real defense you have against vendor lock-in. Remember that $207 billion hole? Sooner or later, vendors are going to have to fill it, and they'll do that by jacking up prices on you. Look, if this sounds familiar, it should. We've all seen this movie before with the cloud era, right? It starts out cheap and easy to get everyone hooked. But once that lock-in is achieved, bam! The costs start creeping up and get pushed right onto the customer. The difference this time? The same exact cycle is happening with AI, but it's happening at light speed. It's the cloud playbook on hyperdrive. All right, so we get the why. It's about survival. But what about the how? How do you actually do this? The answer isn't trying to outspend the giants like Google or Microsoft, because let's be real, you can't. The solution is to be smarter. It all comes down to building a more efficient architecture. And this is maybe my favorite analogy from the source material. Using the biggest, baddest frontier AI model for every single little task is like commuting to work every day in a Formula One car. Sure, it's insanely powerful, but it's also ridiculously expensive, wildly impractical, and just complete overkill.
Honestly, in a business context, it's financial malpractice.
So, what's the alternative to the F1 car? It's something called an AI gateway. Think of it like a smart traffic cop for all your AI requests. It sits in front of everything, and when a request comes in, its first job is to look at it and ask, how complicated is this really? And then its second job is to route that request to the absolute cheapest, most efficient model that can handle it. And the impact of this is just staggering. Look at the numbers. You could send a simple request to a top-tier model and pay 3 cents. Or your smart gateway could route it to a smaller, local model that you control, and it costs you a 10,000th of a cent. Now multiply that difference by millions or billions of transactions. That right there is the difference between a sustainable AI strategy and literally going bankrupt. But look, a brilliant architecture on paper is useless without the right team and the right way to measure what you're doing. It's not just about tech. You need the right execution playbook. And this is a really tough pill for a lot of old-school managers to swallow. In this new world of AI, a team of 10 average developers might just build you a pretty wrapper that, as we know, rots in 3 months. But just one true expert, a champion as the source calls them, they're the one who sees the bigger picture. They're the one who designs the system that prevents that $1 million token bill from ever showing up in the first place. And you have to understand what you're paying for with that expert. This quote says it all. You are not paying for their time, you are paying for their scars. You're paying for all the mistakes they've already made somewhere else, the traps they've fallen into and learned from. That experience lets them see the landmines that you and your team can't even imagine. It's not a cost, it's an insurance policy against an existential threat. And to manage all this, you've got to throw out your old dashboards. You need a whole new set of KPIs. Forget vanity metrics. Start tracking your token-to-outcome ratio. How much does it cost to get a real business result? You need a lettuce index to see how fast your workflows are decaying. You need a sovereignty score to measure how much of your own IP is running on infrastructure you actually control. And you need to find your value leakage rate. That's where you're wasting money, using the F1 car for a trip to the grocery store. Okay, so this all brings us to the final mandate, the big warning. In this mad dash, it is so easy to get scared, to panic, and just react. But whatever you do, you cannot afford to be a sheep. You have to remember what's fundamentally different about AI. For decades, we've built deterministic systems. You put input A into code B, and you always get output C. It's predictable, cheap, and auditable. Think SQL. But AI is probabilistic. You put in A, run it through B, and you might get C, but you also might get D. And D could be a massive liability, a hallucination, a huge error. Using this new, risky tech for things that old, reliable code can do perfectly, well, that's just bad engineering. And that brings us to the acronym itself. What is a SHEEP? It stands for Systems Hastily Engineered for Excessive Prototyping. It's that panicked mindset. It's chasing every shiny new AI framework you see on social media out of pure FOMO. All that leads to is sloppy engineering, mountains of technical debt, and a massive operational headache down the road. Look, at the end of the day, that massive multi-billion-dollar funding gap we started with, it's a warning siren for every single business. Because eventually, that bill comes due. That money has to come from somewhere, and it's going to come from the customers, from you. The companies that win, the ones that survive and thrive, are the ones who use this time not to chase trends, but to build their own sovereign capabilities. So the question for every leader watching is really simple. The race is on. Are you content to just stand on the sidelines and watch the runners? Or are you going to get to work building your own track?